My name is Goldie, and I just turned 15. When I look back at the past 2 years, I can hardly believe how much my life has changed. Sometimes it feels like I've been living in someone else's story, one where the ground keeps shifting beneath my feet. I was only 13 when it all began, the year my parents decided to divorce. Mom got the house, and I stayed with her. Dad agreed to pay a hefty amount of alimony, which I once overheard Mom bragging about on the phone. She said it with a sharp laugh, like she had finally gotten what she deserved. I didn't understand then, but I never forgot the sound of her voice, triumphant and cold. Whenever I asked Mom why she and Dad split, she never gave me a straight answer. Instead, she would purse her lips and say, "Your father made his choice, Goldie. He didn't want to be a part of our lives anymore. He doesn't want to see you. You need to accept that." Her tone was so firm, so final, that it felt like a locked door slamming shut. But how could I accept that? How could I believe that my dad, the man who called me his little scientist, who stayed up with me gluing cardboard planets onto school projects, who beamed when I won a ribbon at the science fair, would suddenly erase me from his life? The thought hollowed me out. Sometimes the ache in my chest was so sharp that I had to stop whatever I was doing just to catch my breath. And yet, little signs of him kept finding me. Every holiday, an email would appear in my inbox. The address was always unfamiliar, like it had been made in a hurry, but the words were filled with warmth and encouragement. They were short, but they carried the same cadence Dad used when he tucked me in at night. "Keep reaching for the stars, sweetheart." The first time I read one, my heart leapt. I just knew it was him. Who else could it be? I never told Mom. Even hearing his name soured her mood, turning the air brittle. So the emails became my secret lifeline, proof that Dad still thought of me, even if I wasn't allowed to think of him out loud. After the divorce, Mom quit her job. She said she needed time to heal. Though Dad's checks more than covered everything, she filled her days with yoga classes and endless home renovations, constantly chasing some new version of herself. And that's when Liam appeared. Liam came with 2 children, Benjamin and Haley. At first, I tried to keep an open mind, but everything shifted so quickly it made my head spin. Mom's energy, her love, her attention, her pride, seemed to pour into Benjamin and Haley as if she'd been waiting her whole life for them. She fussed over Haley's hair, memorized Benjamin's favorite meals, and turned herself inside out to make them comfortable. In me, I faded into the background. I remember one night, I tried to tell Mom how invisible I felt. She looked at me with tired eyes, as if I were being difficult. "Goldie, you're older. You need to be more understanding. Benjamin and Haley lost their mother when they were just toddlers. They need extra love. You've had yours." Had I, though? If love was something you could measure, mine felt like it had been siphoned off and poured into someone else's cup. Mom became obsessed with creating her version of a perfect blended family. Every weekend, she staged elaborate photo sessions. She'd buy new clothes for Benjamin and Haley, then rummage through my closet to find something that happened to match. I was never the centerpiece, always the background, the extra prop that made the picture symmetrical. "Goldie, stand behind Benjamin. No, a little to the left. Try to smile more naturally. Haley, darling, tilt your chin just a bit. Perfect." Click, click, click. We would pose for hours while Mom curated a reality she could post online. Later, I'd overhear her boasting to relatives. "Look at how many likes this got. Doesn't our family look incredible?" You'd never guess they weren't always siblings. And every time she said that, I wanted to scream. Because behind those pictures were the truths no one else saw. Haley rolling her eyes the moment I entered a room. Benjamin brushing past me as if I didn't exist. And Mom, always turning her head, always blind to my fading place in the family. What hurt the most wasn't just them. It was losing Grandma Jessie. After the divorce, Mom banned me from visiting Dad's side of the family. No more weekend baking in Grandma's cozy kitchen. No more warm hugs that smelled faintly of cinnamon. No more evenings where she sat across from me, phone tucked away, listening like my words mattered. I missed her so much that sometimes, late at night, I'd cry into my pillow just from the memory of her laughter. Meanwhile, Mom's relatives fully bought into the act. At family gatherings, they doted on Benjamin and Haley, praising Mom for being such a selfless, amazing stepmother. I lingered at the edges, An afterthought in the family portrait. The rift between Mom and me grew into a canyon. Weekend plans revolved around Benjamin's sports, Haley's tastes, Liam's preferences. My suggestions, my voice, barely made a ripple. And then came the day that tore everything open. Gate. And boarded the flight. One of the officers murmured grimly as the phone clicked down into its cradle. "They've already taken off." The words landed like a physical blow. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. They were gone, Mom, Liam, Benjamin, Haley, all of them soaring across the sky without me. Left behind. Forgotten. Or maybe not forgotten at all, but abandoned. "Do you have any adult relatives we could call to come get you?" Another officer asked gently. Crouching down so his face was level with mine, he spoke carefully, as though afraid I might shatter. With a shaky breath, I managed to whisper, "My dad. I haven't seen him in 2 years, but I know his name and where he used to work." They noted the details, exchanging weighted looks before stepping into the next room to make calls. I sat there, wrapped in a scratchy gray airport blanket that smelled faintly of detergent, trying not to think about the plane, about how my mother and her new children were laughing, maybe already making plans for gondola rides in Venice or selfies in front of the Eiffel Tower. I was supposed to be there too, but instead, I was a stray left behind in a sterile airport office. Then, through the hum of fluorescent lights and the muted chatter of radios, I heard it. "Goldie." The voice was deeper than I remembered, more weathered, but unmistakable. My head jerked up. There he was, Dad, standing in the doorway, his figure framed by the hall light. He looked older, his hair peppered with more gray than I remembered, his shoulders heavier with burdens I didn't yet understand, but his eyes, the same warm, steady eyes that used to check under my bed for monsters, were still mine. "Dad." The word cracked out of me before I could stop it. Then I was running, my sneakers slapping against the linoleum, tears blinding me until I crashed into his arms. His hug enveloped me, tight and trembling, like he was afraid to let go. I clung to him, sobbing into his shirt, which smelled faintly of aftershave and motor oil. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," he murmured over and over, his voice breaking as his hand cradled the back of my head. "I should have been there. I never wanted this. I never wanted to lose you." We cried together until the officers quietly excused themselves, giving us the dignity of privacy. The drive to his place was surreal. Streetlights streaked across the car windows, and I sat in the passenger seat in silence, stealing glances at him, his profile, the way he gripped the wheel, even the way he tapped his thumb against the steering column in rhythm with the music, all so familiar and yet foreign after so long apart. I kept staring, half afraid he might vanish if I looked away. He lived in a different part of the city now, in a tall, modern apartment building with glass walls that glinted like mirrors. We rode the elevator up to the 8th floor, the silence punctuated only by the hum of cables and my own thudding heart. "There's someone I want you to meet," Dad said quietly, almost hesitantly. "My fiancée, Gemma. She's been my rock through everything." The door opened to reveal a woman with kind eyes and auburn hair pulled back into a loose bun. She wasn't glamorous like Mom, but her presence radiated warmth and safety, the kind you could sink into after a storm. "Oh, Goldie." Her voice was soft but steady, and before I could react, she wrapped me in a hug, gentle, yet full of understanding. "You poor thing. You must be starving." She pulled back and cupped my cheek with her hand, her eyes glistening with empathy. "Let's fix you a proper meal, something warm, something that feels like home." In the kitchen, the smell of garlic and onions soon filled the air as Gemma worked, her movements efficient but tender. Dad poured coffee, still black with just a spoonful of sugar, and sat across from me at the table. "Goldie," he said finally, his voice low but steady. His hands were wrapped tightly around his mug, the knuckles pale. "It's time you knew the truth about what happened 2 years ago." My chest tightened, the air between us suddenly heavy. "I came home early from work that day," he began. "A meeting had been cancelled unexpectedly. I wasn't supposed to be there." He paused, swallowed hard, and stared into his coffee. "I found your mother in our living room with Liam. They weren't just talking." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. My stomach twisted as the meaning sank in. When I confronted them, Liam tried to intimidate me. It escalated into a fight. Dad's voice shook, his gaze distant, as if replaying every detail. Not my proudest moment. Your mother tried to intervene, and during the struggle, she was pushed. She hit the coffee table hard. I gasped softly, covering my mouth. There was blood, her face, her hands. I rushed to help her, but before I could, she looked me in the eye and said if I didn't give her everything she wanted, she'd tell the police I had beaten her. She said she had the bruises to prove it. His voice cracked, trembling on the edge of despair. She threatened I'd go to jail, that I'd never see you again. The silence that followed was deafening. Only the sound of Gemma's spoon clinking against the pot punctuated it. She demanded the divorce, the house, the alimony, and that I cut off all contact with you. She said if I tried to reach out, she'd ruin me. And Goldie? He looked up at me, his eyes glistening with tears. I believed her. I thought disappearing was the only way to keep you safe. But not a day went by that I didn't miss you, that I didn't wonder if you hated me. My throat ached with unspoken words. My hands clenched in my lap as I tried to reconcile the loving father before me with the story I'd been fed for years. Everything I thought I knew, Mom's cold dismissal, her insistence that Dad didn't want me, her smug satisfaction about the alimony, it all shifted, like puzzle pieces clicking into place.